So I'm very sure you all have consciously or unconsciously noticed that Indian wisdom tradition in general talks a lot about chitta, mind. I don't know whether chitta, buddhi, when these words can be translated as mind. The English word mind is something that people should pay attention and study, especially now that we have a AI revolution. So all the more reasons. This is not to say that machine, like artificial artificial like robot will not become a being. I have no qualms in accepting a machine can become a being. That's kind of there already, even in the ancient sutras. Not in terms of like machines, but Buddhists talk about what we call Dwariktuk, 6 realms. Again, the word realms. These days, I'm always finding deficiency with most of these words. Like Nangwa in Tibetan. How do you say perception in Hindi? Hindi words and the Chinese words are very interesting for me. And I think the Arabic words are very interesting. I haven't really explored much, but a little bit. Perception, projection, what do you say? I'm asking this question so that you can also, you will have a different way of looking at these. Projection, perception. Drishti. Drishtikon. Does it include things like sound, taste? Dharna? What does that mean? No, we are doing good. Yeah. Soj? What? Is this Soj something to do with, you think about it, that kind of Soj? Prashant always talk about Sojlo, something like that. What does that mean? Think about it. Okay, good. We are talking like this because this is exactly how I wanted you to think. Realm. See, the moment the word realm is mentioned, it does reflect some sort of a planet or some sort of a externally existing thing. But the Buddhists don't really, not just Buddhists, most of the Indian wisdom tradition, little bit that I've read, they don't really assert this. Nangwa, projection. What is happening right now between you and me is a broadly, generally, very, very broadly, what you and I are going through is human projection. That's it. That's all there is. We are not in a separate, some sort of a realm or a planet. Just have a human projection. And within this broad human projection, there are differences. Like, I think this is nuts. And I like nuts. Some of you may be allergic to nuts. If you eat it, you may need to call emergency, right? There are people who eat nuts and then have to go to hospitals. So within our perception, there are so many. Some of you are liberal, some of you are fascists, some of you are whatever, I don't know, affiliated. This is so important. Plus, now it gets more complicated. It gets complicated because Indian wisdom tradition believes in a relativity of the time. If you don't believe in a relative nature of the time, then you will not believe in the past life. Then whatever you begin with this life, that is the ultimate, the origin, the beginning. That has, whatever, the conception, whether you want to celebrate your birthday or what you call it, a perception, or I don't know. From then on, you manage to perceive or project. And then when you are out, so-called birth, then of course the projection. Anyway, Indian wisdom tradition believes in relative nature of the time. So, meaning, there was, you see, this have to be careful here, how you listen to this. There was, I cannot say, you see, this is so difficult. I cannot say the life that you began this time, this projection is the ultimate beginning. Because Indians really, is Indian wisdom tradition really is the one that not only found out time is relative, but they actually lived with it. They actually constructed theory and the practice to live with that. Which means, okay, now on the broader sense, we just need to know that there has been something called cognitions, perceptions, projections before this. So now this is making things very complicated. Okay, right now you and me, our projection is more dominant by so-called human. But part of us, I'm sure, I don't want to hear, but let's say you just before this life you were a chicken. I'm sure some of you feel very, I don't know, just unbearably famished when you see a small worm. You understand? You just feel like, what you call it, pegging it. You just feel it's just. But this, force of projection at the moment, especially for some of you who call yourself Buddhist, which is another of human projection, is disturbed by your gurus. No, you should not peg on a small worm. This is probably your previous life's mother. So, getting so confused. But anyway, domineering projection that you have is what we call human. It's a very broad, it's a big generalization. I'm always being accused for making sweeping statement. Now I'm actually really proud that I make this sweeping statement, because that's all we could do. Do you really want to define yourself with all the habits that you have included? You cannot. There's a part of you really feels very at home in the smelly toilets. We don't know why. So can you understand? This is why, yogis don't understand when the modern psychologists, they sort of analyze your problem and then end up talking about childhood trauma. And that's it. They don't go before that because they cannot. They don't have the past lives. Childhood trauma in the beginning when you were young. This is much more. How about when you used to be a chicken? That is bothering you right now. And for that, for that you need different kinds of psychiatrists. Most of our psychiatrists, they are not qualified to think like chicken. They don't know whether chickens are depressed or not, or whether they are feeling very anxious, or whether they are feeling excited. What is it that they are excited about? Things like this, we don't know. So, anyway, broadly speaking, again a general statement, sweeping statement, according to Buddhism, is there's something called 5 or 6 projection. So very, very broadly, hell perception, hungry ghost perception, God perception. Anyway, all these things that I'm telling you is basically, I wanted to say that something like a robot, artificial intelligence, like this, as long as they have projection, soj, as long as they have this perception, meaning as long as they have a hope and fear, they have the Buddha nature. They are object of compassion. They should be included in your prayers when you say, may all beings be, talking about channel ground, I need to draw your attention back to this one. Among many, many projections that we have a projection of time. This is a hard one, by the way. It's a really, really tough one. Because time is such a interesting thing. It gives you assurance that it exists, as in, birthday, as in expiry dates, as in when you cook an egg, because there's a time, then amount of the fire, amount of how much the water is boiling, you can predict that the egg will be cooked. But the very nature of the time is also very uncertain, unpredictable. Now, that's not a big issue. The unpredictability and uncertainty nature of the time is actually very small issue. The bigger issue about the time is it does not even exist as a truly existing entity. Now, this is the fascinating. Yet, it's really making us go through a lot of roller coaster situation. The time. Time, it's like planning, strategy, whatever, I don't know. Everything. Why do we send our kids to school? Because supposedly there will be a time that they will learn something now so that they can use this for something else. Why are you and I doing what we are doing? Like doing the prostrations to, Buddhas and Bodhisattvas. Because we believe in the future we might get enlightenment. In the future. Enlightenment is somewhere, if you walk this path, at the end, there's something called enlightenment, nirvana. This is something like a future project, isn't it? It's like an aim, the future you will get. And this, yes, so the time is not an easy to, study or projection, and within this study and the exploration or contemplation on projection, and within the projection, time, to really explore on something called time. And yes, a lot of us who happen to be doing, let's say, shamatha vipassana, just for 10, 15 days, you will end up sort of having a bit of a attitude towards past and the future, because that's what your shamatha vipassana masters, they tell you, right? And you will have a very cozy attitude towards nowness, present moment. It's as phony as past and the future. There's something called nowness. But, between you and me, even now, I would say, now, this moment is all you have. Past is gone, it's never going to come back. Future is not arrived yet. We don't know, it's not an entity. This moment is the only moment you have. Of course, I would say this. But you need to also know that this moment is this moment, this time, this is as phony, as illusory. And some of these, these are kind of, from the emotional point of view, it's kind of scary too. And by the way, you may think that this is just some sort of, all this is just philosophical discussion, intellectual discussion. Yes, if you leave it like that, as just an intellectual discussion, it will just be an intellectual discussion. But the great thing about Indian wisdom tradition, especially in the Vajra, Buddha Dharma, and more especially in the Vajrayana, there is a systematic method to tackle with this illusory nature of time. How to deal with. I mean, even beginning with a message like all compounded things are impermanent, everything is impermanent. But you know, the statement such as everything is impermanent, this statement has a hidden agenda, vested interest, I should say. Buddha has a hidden agenda. The hidden agenda of the Buddha is really to tell you that everything is an illusion. Therefore, even something that is becoming impermanent, the very nature of impermanence is also an illusion. That doesn't mean that things are permanent too. That is the real agenda. And this part usually the Buddhists forget. So this is why Buddhists, this is why I think the Buddhist ends up becoming very known by the other people as a very pessimistic. Oh, these guys, all they think about is impermanent. Because people don't talk enough about the real hidden agenda of the Buddha, which is really to, I'm using the word illusion, but the class, I should be using words like shunyata. This, anyway, going back to projection, it's kind of important. You and I, we have this sort of a cognizance, this consciousness. And whatever the consciousness or perception we have, heavily influenced by recent conditioning. When I say recent, not just yesterday or day before, childhood trauma, very much. But more importantly, 5 million lifetimes before. Some of them could be just there. You know, you could be, just hypothetically speaking, you could be, I don't know, very spoiled, vain God in the heaven. Probably it is because of this reason, even in the midst of Lucknow train station, you still try to straighten your tie. Why would you do that in that place? Nobody's looking at you, but urge to be presentable, urge to be kind of I don't know. It gives you some sort of confidence that your tie is straight. You rely on this strange fabric, strange piece of garment to develop your confidence. Certain beings. So Um, it just not to forget the time, the habitual patterns of the time. And yeah, this is another thing. I need to spell this out. In the context of time being illusion, if you really like to dwell on that and really explore that, and if I say, even when I say, and I've said this, 5 million life before this, that does not actually mean before now also. Because it sounds like 5 million years ago, dinosaurs, what was it? All that, you think like this, see? 5 million years ago could be happening within this very moment perception. This is how they think. Anyway, to tie up with the, and anyone who is subject, which everyone, of this strong clinging and clutching towards time is member of channel ground. Mahashamashana, Shamshanam, Shamshan. Anyone. Cemetery. So, this is something I wanted to say. And now I will give you the lung of this, but a little bit more on channel ground. And this whole Shamshan, channel ground, because it's kind of spoken more. It's not that the Sharvakayana and Mahayana, they don't speak, but the way they speak, I've already told you, the purpose of the cemetery for them is obvious, to remind yourself the impermanence nature of the things, illusory nature of the things, so on and so forth. But in the Vajrayana, it's a little bit more sophisticated. Now the reason why it's more sophisticated, and this may be surprising for some of the new Buddhists, one tend to think that the Buddhists really emphasize more on mind. Mind is more important than, most important. Of course, I myself have said this, and this is still the case. But in the Vajrayana, they do not really, so in the non-Vajrayana Buddhist path, they tend to make a difference between body and mind. Sort of body is the vessel and the mind is sort of, the contents. My body is more like a container, more like a tool, more like abode so that the mind can sort of go in and out, kind of things like this. Yeah, of course. The fundamental teachings of the Buddha is that, taming the mind, not so much, we don't say so much about taming the body, especially in the Sarvakayana and the Mahayana. Although, even in the Sarvakayana, it's not that they don't talk about taming the body, such as sitting straight in the Vipassana. That's already the beginning of the taming the body. But more exclusively in the Vajrayana, body, mind, and I want to use a different word so that you can understand this better. I like to, of course, normally I would say body, speech, and mind. But every time I say speech, when the lamas say speech, body, mind, and speech, I don't know, maybe I'm wrong, but people seem to hear it as the speech as in language, the sound. Yes, you are not wrong, but it's much, much, much more than that. So instead, right now, I want to use body, easy to understand, this, all that. Mind, kind of that does the thinking. And then there is kind of a, half body, half mind, let's call it. So that you will understand this better. You understand? It has really some good names that the Sanskrit have, like prana, which is basically like a half body, half mind. Half like a tangible, but also, like as in sound. You can hear, but it doesn't have a visible or touchable, whatever, entity. Hierarchies, and if you want me to, even though in the absolute Vajrayana teachings they don't make much distinctions, and that's what I wanted to get into. Now, if you must have a hierarchy, of course, mind always is on the top, and then prana, or this speech, second, and the body most visible, most gross, most measurable, most it's the most superficial. It's there, you can see. Speech much more complicated, prana much more complicated. It's there, but then you can't really pinpoint. Mind very, very, very profound, very complicated, very complex. Now, in the Vajrayana, these three are not really like a separate, They're not really separate. Now this raises all sorts of questions like, so you mean when we die, after death, there will still be some sort of a body? My very easy and immediate answer is yes. They sometimes call it luminous body. This is actually, for me, it's really, really fascinating, because when people talk about DNA, I feel that there is some conversation we can have somewhere there. But let's not dwell on that for now. Okay, I'm telling you this because my intention to tell you is, I want to talk about Vajra. Vajra. What is Vajra? I mean, how in Hindi they use the word Vajra? Vajra, just in Sanskrit? Yes. So in Hindi, what does it mean?
We don't use it much, and it may mean like jewel or something.
Jewel.
He used because of Indra. He has that shastra.
Okay.
We don't use it in a
I understand. Okay. Dorje. Okay. No problem. My intention to talk about this morning is the Vajra. Because again, it's a really, really, okay, so I want to talk about three things: Dorje, Vajra, and then the second, Ne. Ne is place, shrine, altar, shrine. I'm sure you have a really good word for this. What do you call, when you go to pilgrimage, you always go to some special place. What do you call this place? Holy place, as in holy place.
But that is pilgrimage itself.
But it depends.
The place.
It's the name of the place.
Satan?
For Shiva temples, they are Jyotirlingas. Like, and if you're going to
The place. Ne. Sthan. Yes, sthan. What does sthan means? I'm sure there are some other meanings. Come on, dig it out. Sthan. Oh yeah. Like it's in Hindustan, Pakistan. Oh. Sthan. No, this is good. This is helpful. This is really good. Oh, so good. I've learned something. Stan, yes. Does it include Kazakhstan? Really?
It's like saying land.
Oh.
Scotland.
What do you call England? No, what do you call England? No, but no Stan. What do you call it? Angrestan. Yes, this is so good. Englistan. There is words like that? Okay. I don't want to be too involved with the argumentative Indians. Okay. So good. I've learned something. Stan. Yes, Stan. So that's what I want to talk about. Stan. Because we are talking about Bhumi. We are talking about charnel ground. So Vajra, the indestructible, whatever. So, and then Stan, okay, and then the Yeshimbeba, the invocation of the Janana Sattva, or invocation of the wisdom. That I will just can't really talk too much because it's really vast. But I think it's good for you to know Vajra. So, first, Vajra, this I've mentioned to many people here, so you know this. Vajra is something, Vajra, the definition of the Vajra is unsplittable. Michepa, we call it, miche, unsplittable. So, like, I can split this nut like that. So that's not Vajra, obviously. So then you go on, and you split. And then, well, there's a Buddhist school called Vabheshika Buddhist school. They got the most amount of scoldings from the other Buddhist schools. Because, and actually, they're the most close to the physicists, I would say. Physicists, people who talk about, the scientists would really like them. They say, oh, there's some small particle that is unsplittable, and that is the source of everything. They actually say two things: smallest particle and smallest mind or cognizance. So on and so forth. Oh, they got so much scoldings. So much. Even Swatrantika people prance on them. Obviously, Chittamata Yogacharya school prance on them. And then Madhyamika, they're so arrogant, like that. They just treat them as if somebody who doesn't know anything. You understand? There is a lot of that. But unsplittable. This is important. So let's talk first mind. The mind that we have, most of it is splittable. You can, in fact, not only they are splittable, we are tormented by the endless splinter of this split mind all the time. Don't forget chicken. not just, and some of this splitting we deliberately volunteer ourselves by going to school. Go to school and then they teach you how to split, and you get so confused. Again, don't forget chicken. I'm serious. Imagine you have a really, really strong degree with a chicken sort of, education, and then suddenly you have something else which seems to be also making sense. And then also you have to live now sort of 99.99% as a human. And that one tiny percent of the chicken just won't go away. It's very confusing. It's really unbearable sometimes. But this is of course needs a lot of discussion and practice. So there is so from the Buddhist point of view, there is a primordial cognizance. This is what is taught in the Madhyamika and really, really explicitly in the traditions such as Mahamudra, Mahasandhi, all that. The unsplittable mind is not really mind is subject. Subject and object is already splitted, right? So there's, okay, let's just call it for the time being, unsplittable mind. Vajra mind, they call it. And now the most interesting thing about the Vajrayana is they do not exclude speech and the body, which means they actually say there's an unsplittable Vajra body, unsplittable Vajra speech. This is the ground of all the, this is what the Vajrayana people believes in mantra. Mantra is not just sort of a, random sort of, like putting together some sound like a om, ah, hum, oh, sounds good, let's just chant. It's not like that. It's not just that. There's an unsplittable speech. And this is what you are supposed to we are not going to go too deep in these arguments, because you see it's a really difficult one, because this also is, as I speak like this, some of you may be already thinking, oh, are you talking about alaya, eighth consciousness? Not really. Because the Tantrika, and not only Tantrika, Madhyamikan, will say, alaya is already splittable. Do you know why? Because it's a storeroom. If it is a storeroom, and like a fridge, you put things, store. Now if you take out, then there will be a space. That's already a split. The shape and the form of that space is changed. So, alaya can be emptied out. You understand? And then your question will be, oh, so emptying out, offloading, what do you call it? Tidying up house, tidy up. Do a garage sale, for instance. Is that enlightenment? This is what the Buddhists, especially the Madhyamika and the Vajrayana, said no. They will strongly say no. So they will say strongly no. The reason why they say strongly no is because they think this is sitse. This is jurme. Sitse. It's a. I think the English they in the final absorption, like through the samadhis, through the shamatha, absorption. Peak of existence. Yes. That Buddhists scold us, masters scold us a lot. This is so dangerous, they say. Because the thing is, this properly tidy up, alaya, feels like an enlightenment. No emotions, no hope, not much fear, lot of big, sort of, time has also sort of stopped. You understand? It's really dangerous. There is stories after stories in the sutras where where the monks are doing prayers, samadhi, deep samadhi, and then they were just entering into this peak of existence, and the Manjushri comes and ring the bell and getting this, like push them, pull them, like there's so many stories. like that. I think you will relate to this. Lot of the appetite for vipassana and the shamatha nowadays, they are actually, even though they don't term it that way, they want a calmness, right? Calmness. No. If you are a Buddhist, you should never ever look for calmness. Calmness, that's a dangerous, because it looks like an enlightenment. It's like a, made in Bangkok. Oh, sorry for those Thai people. It is fake leather. You understand? Fake Rolex watch. It's really, it looks like though, identical. And they are cheap. Why cheap? Just 9 days of sitting will almost do it. Kind of. But the problem with that is you need a charger. And if you need to charge all the time, what a burden. That's why the Vipassana people always need to replenish every year once. You understand? They need to replenish it, like recharge again and again. Time to time, oh, I need to do a retweet now. Okay, so that means any day they can, what do you call it? Loose cannon? Any day they have the potential to be a loose cannon. And also they are dangerous to others because they all look so good and calm and, kind of proper, you understand? So, what the Buddhists, especially in the Tantra, what they want is to achieve this, they call it Kaya Vajra, Vaka Vajra, Chitta Vajra. Vak. How do you... yeah, that's it. What's the... Voice. Voice, right. Yes, voice and sound, language, constant, like vowels and, stuff like that. It's okay, you can understand it this way, but for your understanding it more thoroughly, keep this in mind. What I just said, half mind, half body, something. Vaka. Kaya Vajra, Vaka Vajra, Chitta Vajra. This. Okay, so this is Dorje, the Vajra. And now the Ne. Stan. What, right? Stan.
Colloquially, we can say stan.
Stan.
But if you want to give it more devotion, they call it
Bhumi.
bhumi.
Oh.
Here is bhumi.
Okay. There Bhumi. I like Stan. Hmm? Pitha.
Shakti, that's the
Not
one.
necessarily all
Stan. Where's Praveen? 10 minutes more? Okay. So, Ne, Stan, Pitha, Bhumi.
Shanshan is also star.
Yeah? Oh, of course. Yeah.
Vishram, Vishram, resting place.
But I'm going to use the word shrine. shrine. I don't mind also the word altar, as in place where you do sacrificing, right? Altar, like. I mean, for now, for this morning, this might actually resonate with you. Altar, shrine, basically chopping board. You understand? No, really. Chopping board? What do you call it? Where you make the chapati that flat? What? Belan chakar? No, I mean the flat.
Yeah, chakla.
Chakla. Yes. Please think of chakla, altar, shrine, where you do that chopping and I don't know, where you put things and mix things and that. The perception that we have, whatever, even the sound of a bird, the very presence, time, in the more sort of profound sense, these are all sthan. So, basically, in this way, what we are saying is, everywhere is a holy place. Everywhere is a shrine. Everywhere is a sthan of Vajra. And this is the sort of, okay, so let's use the word holy place, holy sthan, special, dorjine, the Vajra sthan. And it's a bit like this. The altar, the sthan, pitha, I think, bhumi, as we talked yesterday, there's an external designated kind of geographically bound or tangible place, such as these 8 cemeteries we talked. And there you go and do the chopping. Whatever, and that act is what we call sadhana and puja. But more internally, even like generating the bodhicitta, a relative bodhicitta, ultimate bodhicitta, rising as a deity, complete confidence of being a deity, and being a deity and offering oneself a nice music to your own consciousness of ear, which is none other than Avalokiteshvara, remember? And then the music, none other than, let's say, Bandharavasi. That is how you generate. Generate is not the right word. That's how you discover the Vajra Sthan, Vajra place. Then the whole activity of the Tantra is that. But again, not that because of our lifetime after lifetime of habitual patterns, needs a lot of different kinds of, method, skillful means, upaya. And just briefly, I will just go through some of these. One of them is don't get too don't get too worried if you don't understand, but just to Thikchen je, we say. Thik is line, thick line, like drawing a line. And the ground of all the mandala that we create, that you can study in the Tantra, is a 8 line. That is the fundamental. The Tantric students, they learn that. At glance, it's very easy. You just do one line, going like straight, and another line this way. That's already considered four line, and then you go across 2 times. So that's the 8 line, and based on that, they make all the construction of the mandala, divided into 8 direction. Again, back to 8 cemeteries, 8 consciousness, 8 bodhisattvas, 8 herukas, all of that. And then, these Nevaris in Nepal, they have quite a strong tradition of Vajrayogini and Chakrasambhara practice. They create mandala like a very instantly. It's a very, very profound, actually. Someone who has not been introduced to all these complicated, profound tantric teachings will find it very strange that they would create an 8 line in front of them, and then they venerate this, prostrate to this, throw flowers, anoint it with incense, circle it with like food, lamps. But for a yogi, for some yogi, this is building the mandala, constructing the mandala is one very profound way to construct the Dorjine, the place, Vajra place, Vajrasthan. Okay, we take a break. before I forget, I will do the lung, or the transmission of this. Namo Guru Deva Dakini Guru Jembanda Chibi Chinjilabi Doji Nenam Lakbar Nebichi Tasum Kangrung di Tsumba Tsurubji Kapsola Nanjur Pomonam Chegun Natsuji Chen Pero Yadar Jinjuruatam Chete. As I read this, I will just time to time talk about it a little bit. So I will just tell you as an information, not as an instruction. There is a tradition, as I said yesterday several times, many times actually, that there are people who actually go to these externally manifesting channel ground, but as in many cases, Vajrayana is such an incredible when it comes to upaya method. Without rolling out of your bed, you can achieve everything. In fact, what you can just sleep. There's a sleeping yoga. That's the brilliance of the, this is not, the Vajrayana is designed not like this because it's trying to suit some people's way of doing things, some people's way of thinking. Vajrayana is like this because the fact of the real, matter, reality is like that. So it's not like Vajrayana has no business in trying to woe you, like trying to lure you. A practitioner, as a Vajrayana, tantrikas, we are supposed to practice, like bodhicitta. We are supposed to have compassion, aspiration to enlighten beings. In that context, yes, of course, we can do all kinds of things to aspire, inspire other people, motivate others through simply, meditating on bodhicitta, building stupas, or I don't know, all kinds of ways. This invocation of the blessing of general ground can be also done wherever you are. You can even do it individually in your house, but also it's emphasized or encouraged to do it in group. So at times, yogis and yoginis, they can gather together, they can organize some sort of a mandala, let's say Chakrasambhara or Vajravarahi or Vajrayogini. What that means is, like really acknowledging and accepting or acknowledging or dwelling in the confidence of being a deity, or if that's not possible, at least have some sort of a confidence that our defilements, no matter how strong they are temporary by nature, they are purifiable, they are not your nature, they are not your innate nature. No matter how terrible you are, they are external, something that is not you. That is already a beginning of a confidence. With that, if it helps you, then you create the atmosphere by arranging the shrine, which again depends on you. What kind of capacity you have. Do you get more inspired by having some sort of a statue of a Buddha or a Guru somewhere up above you, in front of you, adorned with flowers, lamps, incense? If you want to be more elaborated and more true to the Tantra, you can even create a mandala. Nowadays you can just print one. There is actually, it's allowed. In the sadhanas, they talk about ready jichinkor, meaning, well, in the past, they have to paint, But these things all depends on people, depending on your capacity and how much you want to sacrifice your time, energy, like even accumulate, like Gana Chakra, feast. You can just buy a packed food if you have that kind of capacity. If you want to really, it's a bit like, actually this kind of thing even is found in like a Mahayana tradition, such as in the Zen tradition, they have tea ceremony. What do you think Zen tea ceremony, or actually they call it ceremony, but it's not really a ceremony, is it? It's a samadhi. And what makes you think that the Zen people do this tea ceremony or a tea samadhi? Because nothing to do with the actual tea. It's just the whole process of making. I've been really asking the Datun people in India that they should really consider chai ceremony, chapati ceremony, or even before that, kneading, rolling. They can do that. I've been trying to ask Praveen, let's do a pan ceremony. Actually, this time you are supposed to do, what happened? Like holding the leaf, looking at the leaf, greenness of it, smell, spread the whatever it is, what lime is it? 1, 2, 3, maybe 8 times. How about that? 8 consciousness. You can just make up anything. And put things. Sometimes put things that are, what we call traditional, like supari. And then what else? Yeah. And sometimes do it tantric way. Go against your normal thinking. Put chili, onion, whatever, salt. Yes, and then, roll it and slowly, open your mouth, put it in, and then, on the right side, on the left side, all of that. Anything to do with contemplation, self-contemplation, letting the mind. This Shantadeva said this. Putting the leash on this distracting mind. That's so same thing. So in the Vajrayana, even more so. Anyway, sometimes yogis and yoginis gather together. Chegun, not so jijen. It's really such a fun. Almost create like a, what do you call it, masquerade? people wearing mask. You can do that also, or some almost like a fancy dress, party. Just whatever, just to, embark a little bit from your normal comfort zone, and then burn. Normal incense is fine. Anything that smells good, that is, if you have that kind, if you only belong to a capacity, if your capacity is something that can only handle sandalwood, burn sandalwood. Like, but if you have the capacity to burn dry shit, it's not discouraged, it's actually encouraged. Anything, most disgusting smell, all mixed up also. There is a whole liturgy how to combine these incense substance. And some of the ingredients, we don't want to even discuss this for right now. And they are meant to invoke what? Invoke unsplittable kaya, vaka, and chitta. Where? This altar. Write this. And when I say this altar, don't forget the illusory nature of the time, but this moment mind and this place where we are sitting, and you can also extend this place to Himachal, to India, to universe, and much more beyond the universe. And then invoke. Ngonjung sibi tangbola rangro demi heruka yeshi rangshi pachi mu yumchin namja ingshi mu tuji shuji trubika yeshi guyi chumtru sisum ruti tsota de truba jila takwaya rangnang tembi chumtruji drama chimbi chamri gungo sasam jimbi chibi zaba thoma tembi maha rutra tharbana chamo chuchu tangjibi zungzin tsoje jundeji drabi shing lyuni siba debeke ngani sukham sumbi taba kusum tuji kolo sumbi rangji tala chiroji ten jiwo zalanda nedan yudan Saju lamji dekona duwala saju tela wangje rishi kajo saju sawa pawo drak rabchim dhamma mishi dili ahanya bachiri dani dhubi chinguchi ishikola zogo rutin ingli chungwa shachu dhutu sibisar cheten deji tsakpani hungchen kari jimpopji. Remember we talked about the Rudra yesterday, so that just briefly Hayagriva and the Vajrayogini, they go to subdue that Rudra. Upon after subduing this Rudra, Rudra's heart is blessed. Rudra's heart is now labeled as a eastern channel ground. And in the eastern channel ground, we also, not only eastern channel ground, but we also call it cool grove. And there, self-arising chaya, or what do you call it, stupa. Stupa's name is layer of bliss. Nearby this stupa, the great Vidyadhara Mahasiddha Hunkara, come right now, this very moment, here. He transform this place into the mandala, so on and so forth. And then Rudra's right. Rudra's right hand, we sort of conveniently call it southern channel ground. And now, as I said yesterday many times, many of the names of the channel ground differs also. Here, the channel ground is called Kuju Gitsal. the garden of cuckoo bird. But they are very connected though, what we talked yesterday. And there's this stupa called layers of jewels. And beside this stupa resides the great Vidyadhara Mahasiddha, whose name is Manjushri Mitra. That's a big one, by the way. It's a very, very big Mahasiddha. Lot of those people who have been receiving Mahasandhi teachings, you will know his name. Okay, now I better read this. Jambashi ni chimbuchi tsemi chali chunga nucho tuche pema choten ziyupa naga zuni chimbuchi kangpa yunu chunga chancho turi choten teji ro prabha hasti chimbu rudi nancho lo chunga shalo turi choten kewu tishina dana sangti ti chimbuchi mahanguru kulu maharudin kulu lonub tutu sangi choten kinin chishini bima mitre chinchu rudala kwa nubchon turi choten rangjung kumana guhya chandre chimbuchi rucha kangpa yu chancho turi choten gomasarani shenting garbe chimbuchi paji jibali zuzin turi kumbara densum doji doji yana chi neyo mama barbi turi chimbuchi isumi bi chimbuchi rizin tuwe yujimini ujin rangjung turi zasum doji pema sambi choji kusum kusami sungju tubiri zipe yujan shinji korona sisum inji sanji ishi chimbirama take tengsum kompo yuzun jawa choyan jimboji lora kajiruni tile yanzun namkini samrup sheji tabun nyashen jane jimboji nirin singza chataji jimboji shambo kanji rawana sisum tabun. Obviously, since this was discovered in Tibet, so now I'm going through the list of the charnel ground in Tibet. Also, each of them have its own Mahasiddhas. Most of them Tibetans. Lanchin Persing Jimboji lived. Jahado Berotsan Mio Tingzing Kono. Ngada chimbu chimbu nyakchin yudala suba jimbu yishin yisme namba kanji ma rangjung doji ne chimbo jagun kusung tu indi tinda gegdor bima sanji sa jundu jiban rizin duba jaso ngudum nyamba jindu budu chamang ngatan jibu de saje samme namne yuju duba samba jindu desum longi desum jali doji kunyi lamso zimba kambus tuwani basamba pabi neden juruda jindu shindi soji bidu pangdan lo billaji gudu biru patan teloso nanjiro onchu jeju mindro gombichi nabzu jambang de bang nendro oje rangjo shin doji tebaji 총리 링바 제바스 때든 점수 점바지 나한테 마한 거를 땅거든 좀 해봐지 지나서면 가들까밥 남제당 마상 거유시지 조주도지는 싱다지지 점바지나서 땀바 제바진을 잠내 점수 이시고 런지 상황을 숨이 지나주는 거로 자주라면 진심 내쇼미 신우지 가상 초도 진실 홍오미 시점지징어다 지금 도지스는 비침부지 된숨다 비샤야가 링아스 왕모니지 짐부지 시바지비라도 가도지 짐법지. Now I'm reading through the sections of holy shrine or the charnel ground, especially during the time of dying, during the process of the death, because that just a whole different layer of charnel ground in this case. Sanje kunji gombada babi konde ishi doji trebiji jiba chimboji doji parvi shedangi sisaji yanda lazo jimyami sinen lazo jimboji sodo 차도 저지 차도 진행 도지 되도 도지 이리다비들이지만 인저 20%의 소지 대비도 좀 버리죠. 제가 근두지 뭐지다 시스미에는 산지시 냠니 근두 선배다 버리죠. 이시 인내 진지 버리죠. 렌쟁하지 집에서 가지고 감숨답이 그 남자 버리죠. 난시 큰도 점마 정하지 되게 이기 짐바지 바지도 담된 짓이 냠바도 도지수만 산지 끈지 이시고 랑주도 도진내 수진주주도 도진내 수진질로 떼요 쓰지 당만은 도진내 수진질로 떡줄 륜지 저번에 샤자성기 그러진다 라궁아이도 람잼 친구지도 감숨답이 꾸숨도 도진내 수진질로. And since this is discovered by Dzongsar Khyentse Rinpoche, who is very connected to the Nyingma tradition, now specifically 8 Guru Rinpoche manifestation, that is also very connected to the 8 consciousness, and therefore 8 channel ground, 8 manifestation of Guru Rinpoche, Guru Tsenje, we call it. Ranjung Rabbi Janatan Yvidara, Logi Dudan Yvid, Doji Zuman says, Heruka in Shinghal in Jichabes Bundu. The Jimbaji numbers the one Dujiting the Zobaika Vajami, Chenam Nganji, 2 dams into the union. Nancho di regime Japan Nandi Rancho Sanwachi, Chinunji Tempemiji, Shiranjo Kazang Chodu in the Dubridge Sado Rita, Tishington, Naji, Jem, Sagan, Power Jackie, Tonchi to Kumi, Tamba, Shidan, Nasumaji, Kabai, Tonzo, Tadang the Dojing Artists, Tondro, Yansi, to just Sanwa Choice, and Tamba Tamji to Jiris with 니숨에 버다 다발에 초진존 춘이 다방 은준이 찾았으면 틀에서 소루랑로 이시지 일라 된당 차시리 군정도 위트는 대주침병어도 김거락간도 대전남이 그 말씀님이 냠니 라비 띵진다 뉴바침병어서지 도지 rinzin kandung zo omahung penza mahanguru dewa dagin sarvasama jana abishaya arali shingching pembimshi shuglu toga kangling so ruming ata natsubi jinwa barjaba jebang ba ujin choji jeba kanjin chobi tineji goja chogunji biten medu jungi gobar doni rubo riji chada paman jaman kunzi choji lori paman yishi doji gadinji chada rangjung doji nechimbi sirimji jingodo widanji jibanji Hojo Rinchin Tijurima number could be the Junibiti Rekadi and Tribu Wanchi Pemakaran teaching wrestling between Gasu the Tibeti Kachibji, Rananto, Shingi Tronchimbu, Uyung with tended to choke it, choke it, Sesuchi Saram Mangalam. This was composed or discovered or written by Dzongsar Khyentse Rinpoche at the request of Khyentse Chogyal Lodro. And this I've been wanting to tell you. This was done, and also partly the reason why there was a request of doing the teaching, and I wanted to talk about the channel ground. There's actually a thought occurred to me, and that's why I chose partially just to tease some of you. And one of the kind of more worthy reason is the very reason why Chokilotu asked the Khyentse Rinpoche to write this. Because people talk a lot about internal nowadays people talk a lot about environment, decay, environmental, destructions, ecological destructions, all of this. And obviously, these few years we have been talking a lot about conflict. There is definitely conflict going on because I personally think because there's too much freedom, that's why there's a lot of, what is it? There's a lot of conflict. Too much freedom and too fast freedom, Anyway, obviously, as you have been hearing these 2 days, and you, of course, you can call it totally very subjective. The lamas, in this case, Khyentse Chokilotu, really felt that sort of we Tibetans, they call it yang. It's a bit like a sort of a fortune or a good energy of environment is decaying. Certain place you go and for no reason you feel very comfortable, even though the place is really not that special or even chaotic. You feel really good. Of course, lot of reasons, your education, your background, your childhood memory, all of that. But beside that, certain place just is a special spot. Now I'm quoting from Carlos Castaneda. I don't know. Those who have read it, you will know. There's a certain spot. Certain spot. This actually, you can change. And this is as said actually in the Tantra also. If you are not so happy, if you are feeling depressed or not so happy, just shift yourself from bedroom to living room. It will help a little bit, just for a few seconds. Or, I don't know, sleep, changing the direction of your pillow. Why not sleep like, why not sleep in the bathroom? Something like this, just, spot. Again, stan. I'm talking about stan, spot. Ne. Then there's a collective. Stan, collective phenomena. Somebody asked me this. Collective, group phenomena. Now our group phenomena is definitely challenged this past few years. Ecologically, maybe the group phenomena is deteriorating. Group phenomena of, people's, sort of the edgy feeling. People are all a little bit edgy. People are not relaxed, anxious. That is obviously happening. It's not like it only happens, like once or twice. I think it comes and then it settles. So there was a time that in Tibet, I think in the 1940s, maybe 1940s or late 30s, There was a time that Khyentse Chokulodo and they felt there's a sort of deteriorating external environment and internal environment. So it's around that time you can do some practices such as grand mandala, creating mandala, they call it drupchen, and then specifically restore, mend the 8 channel ground, like invocation, through prayers, aspirations, and also, burning specific incense, and also adopting certain attitude, adopting lifestyle, at least for half an hour, wearing, clothes, especially very mind-boggling clothes, but you may have noticed that in Tibetan monasteries, these clothes have become just a tradition now. They just wear the same old stuff. And the Tibetans, for some reason, they love brocade. Goodness, I don't know why, but they keep on wearing brocade. They keep on wearing brocade. And so brocade, they think, is something fascinating. But, ideally, they should be wearing things like tiger skin skirt, smear themselves with, ashes, I don't know, and then create that kind of outrageous but blissful circumstance and situation, and then wholeheartedly, it's not like we are practicing rebelliousness. So nothing to do with that. It's really like creating a different kinds of order, new order. Like because the old order has damaged and sort of deteriorate the environment too much. So this is the Jimbep invocation of the blessing, invocation or restoration of the environment. We do this time to time. And I know a lot of people here also participate big pujas like a drupchen. So that I have noticed. So I've also thought about that. And I didn't want to say, I'm going to be talking a little bit about some part of the drupchen, because if I say that, then a different kind of people will come and, I also want to, I have some other motivation. I wanted to introduce something not only just Nalanda and Otendapuri and Vikramalashila wisdom, some other wisdom. Okay, do you have any questions? Many questions, looks like.
You talked quite a lot about time. Ultimately, the time is also not there. I can understand if I say that this pen is ultimately empty of the pen. I see there is a pen. But when one is to really see the emptiness of time, how do I really understand the time? What is the definition of the time? And how do I bring that in my mind to see that it is empty of the time? The time is empty of time.
Difficult to answer this one completely, but to some extent I can tell you. I think I've said already. I think your attitude and your view about life will be like the mother who is getting along with the children playing with the toys. You understand? So, yeah, there's a time here. You know how the mothers do that? Yeah, like then they shoot and they like make very squeaky noise and stuff like that. They will do that. We will do that. And that is the bodhisattva of the highest kind. They will wear, underwear. You understand? They will wear tight. They will wear even tuxedo. Why not? If that's what people like, let's do this.
Yeah, but then when we are saying that the time is illusory, that is what you have really said.
Yeah, but this is, but then that's a liberating, right? Because it's not a big deal. You will not be bound. Telopa said this, right? It is not the appearance that is binding you, it is the attachment to the... Yeah, that's what happens, I think. This is my guess job. And I think it's a good guess. There are certain toys that we have that we already know is not that of a big deal. I mean, like, I'm sure you are also at this age. Like I'm at this age where, okay, if I post something on my Instagram, and if there's a lot of this or few of this, it doesn't really bother me that much. You understand? Oh, what is that? What is this? You understand? But there are certain toys that we have not that easy to get rid of, such as time. I understand. But for somebody like Naropa, or not even Naropa, just even someone who's maybe not as accomplished as him, time is as, what do you call it, meaningless as thumbs up and thumbs down. That much is, we can understand that much. And when you reach that, you become very powerful. Because cannot corrupt, right? Like 100 thumbs up cannot corrupt you. One thumbs down will also not, throw you off. There's a power. Likewise, time, when the time does not, time isn't, when you see that.
Thank you, Rinpoche. I wanted to ask, is it possible to become a Mahasiddha in one lifetime? And if yes, how?
Very much so. And that is not it's not at all a marketing tool. It is the fact. And how? We have been talking like 2 days, one method. Oh, there's many methods. And these methods are still alive. There's a lineage, there's a teachings, there's a systematic analysis. And it's still alive, very much. But lots and lots of, I have to say this, lots and lots of Sunak and Fareed might kill it.
Rinpoche, I just wanted to know, like we hear about Mahasiddhas from the past, but none from the present. Do you know?
Oh, I'm sure there's a many Mahasiddhas. Not necessarily completely accomplished ones, but small-time Mahasiddhas. That's already quite good. I have actually observed. They don't walk around with a halo or anything like that, but they have a certain attitude with their life. And that's kind of refreshing. Maybe I should share this with you. This, we know somebody, a yogi. Recently, he had a problem with the prostate, and he couldn't pee and all of that. And suddenly he disappeared. And so I was looking for him because I needed to send him to Canada to do something. We couldn't find him. So after a lot of searching, we realized he went back to East Bhutan, where he's from. He decided that, okay, that's the end of his life. He's going to die. And he will just die in his mountain retreat place. So I had to actually send somebody, like 6 hours of driving with a phone, to call him. I had to sort of exaggerate a little bit with, I wasn't angry or anything like that, but I had to sort of pretend that I was throwing tantrum. Said, how can you do this? You are so stupid. I actually said this. So stupid. Get off your seat right now. Go straight to Delhi. Go to, hospital and check. And he said, oh, okay. And he immediately left, I guess, because I arranged the car and all of that. And he went to Gangaram Hospital. Within 2 days, he was walking around. But, I thought, oh, this is quite good. There's somebody who can just sort of, okay, I'm going to die. That's a little bit of a little bit of a kind of a, I don't know, you can call it stupid, but I would call it long-term planning. Actually, it's a long-term planning. The contrary to short-term planning. I would say it's a big vision. It's a visionary decision, in a way. Okay, any other? Yes, please pass it to.
Yesterday you said that when one thought dies and before another arises, there is a gap. And in that gap, you can, I guess a practitioner can access the alaya, which is just there. So I wanted to ask, even if there is not a gap, even as the thoughts are passing, can practitioners still access?
Yes, but there's always a gap. Okay. The continuous thought, I will give you I think Shantadeva. I'm not even quoting Tantra, Shantadeva. He said all these thoughts are like a fire circle, like this, and it looks like a circle. It looks like a continuous, but they are never continuous.
Rinpoche, thank you so much for these precious teachings. I just want to clarify some things, and please correct me if I have not understood correctly. From what I understand, you said the Vajra kind of arises when there is a union between the deity and the consort, like when the hearing sense is touching.
Yes.
Is that the Vajra that we're talking about in this unsplittable?
Yes, actually that union, even though we use the word union, which is not a good word, because when we talk about union, it does indicate there's two things. And we don't want to really say two things. Unsplittable, remember? So the sound and the knower of the sound comes together. They are actually one.
Yes, that was going to be my
Yes,
question. That if
yes,
two things, then how can it be unsplit?
yes. But then, because we forget that or we don't know that, so even the teaching, when we teach, we sometimes we have to almost, we also have to sort of, it's like playing with the kids. You have to speak their language. So the Buddhists do have a lot of language that sounds like there's two, like in Union's case.
Thank you so much.
Rinpoche, very grateful for your presence. I wanted to know if meditating, closing eyes, and calmness is faking of enlightenment. Do we fake it until we make it, or how do we go about it?
Closing eyes and
Meditating and calmness is fakeness of enlightenment. Do we fake it
a
until we make it?
little bit, it's a one step, but I think you should be prepared to shrug off the calmness. Shrug off. Shed. Skin, what do you call it? Shedding. Yeah, shed. Calmness is a skin. Peel it off. Okay. Yes.
Thank you so much, Rinpoche. I'm a film student and I'm making a documentary on Thangka art, Dharma art. And I have two questions. Today you talked about illusions. So my question is, if ego is an illusion and say film or Maya is an illusion, can we say in cinema what we make, a story, we make stories through moving images, can that anyway lead to freedom or any awakening?
Can it,
Can cinema lead to any awakening or freedom?
well, with the right motivation and the right view, I'm sure.
And my next question is, you talked about, yesterday you talked about bodhisattvas. So in Dharma art, specifically Thangka, practitioners draw Thangka or write Thangka. They learn about freedom through practicing Thangka. And that Thangka often refers to sacred text. That's an act of creating something. And scholars like monks and Rinpoches read about Thangka and read about Dharma. And so the question is there any difference between a scholar or an artist who practices Thangka? And I want you to touch like what a real Thangka, what is an essential Thangka to you? Yes.
Thangka's statues, we use the Tibetan word is ten, we call it ten, meaning support. So Thangka's statues, mandalas, they are used as a support for visualization and reference. But you will know, lamas, masters, sometimes they encourage practitioners to use the Thangkas, statues, obviously so many statues. But in the same very teaching, masters have also warned how you will end up making the deity very limited, like one-dimensional. This kind of contradictory teachings are there all the way. Obviously, you need to develop and then you need to exhaust. This is the purpose of the Thangka as a reference. But even the Thangkas, if you pay some attention, really good ones, you can already tell a lot of sort of non-dual stuff. And this one actually, the Indian painters, but at least one Indian painter that I know of, I have this painter, I think he was, he's a Bombay film poster painter, I have a feeling. Anyway, he's very funny. He's really, I've learned, anyway, sometimes I would say, I would say, so good what you did. You know what will he say? Of course. He said, of course, because it's the God himself, not me. He said, very, very good answer, Then I asked him to paint Tara, 21 of them. And all the Taras, they have big muscles. That's how it should be. Anyway, yeah.
Namaste. I want to unravel another paradox between Vajrayana, Shamatha Vipassana, and Vajrayana. It's an experiential understanding that to enter into Vajrayana, you comprehend little bit of aspects of Vajrayana. I personally need a calm mind, basic shamatha, and also good amount of, reasonable amount of vipassana, which is a good amount. So how does that go with this paradox of
No, but this is a very good understanding. That's why in Tibet, Tibetan masters have prescribed all of them. It's a very good understanding. You should have that. Three yana, all really, really good. That you should keep that. Shamatha, vipassana, renunciation mind, revulsion towards the samsara, revulsion towards the worldly life, the essenceless, futile life, all that is very good, especially for the beginner practitioners. Then, time to time, it is also important to know the fact that whatever you are trying to go against, like revulsion, they are illusory by nature. There's nothing to be abandoned, nothing to renounce, like a Mahayana. Then, at times, it's good to tell yourself 1 kilo of emotion is 1 kilo of wisdom. Nothing to get rid of, nothing to adopt, nothing to add, nothing to subtract. That's what Maitreya said. It's not even the teachings of the Vajrayana, but Vajrayana says this a lot. Okay?
Thank you, Rinpoche. Can you please speak about fear, and specifically about these places where fear is involved, and should one go and be in that places to invoke fear, and how to practice?
Fear of like losing ground? Is it? If you are talking about that, that's maybe the fear of alaya. I actually wanted to tell you this, but I somehow forgot that. It's good that you mentioned this now. It's total, referencelessness is very scary. because we are so used to reference. And I think total nakedness, total no reference, no ground could be quite scary. But there again, going back to the earlier question, if you train your mind, okay, all the reference that I am clinging on, they are futile, they are essenceless, they are full of dukkha. Actually, they are dukkha, so on and so forth, mind training. And then shamatha vipassana, what does it do? It actually takes you to the referenceless, deliberately, consciously. So what you are afraid of, referenceless, you consciously, deliberately face. And then as we talked earlier, experience or realization and understanding comes, and as they come, you don't get attached, you peel them off, you shrug them off, and then more referencelessness emerge. And then, of course, more fear maybe, but then again encourage yourself with words like kayas, janas, because yes, of course they are kind of a reference, but they are the closest reference referring to referenceless. So that's a good way to go, I would say. Okay.
I was very interested to hear more on the relation of the 8 consciousnesses with the 8 cemeteries, and which consciousness is in particular to which cemetery, like that. Like the I consciousness does it go to a specific cemetery, or is it like almost like a body mandala kind of thing of the 8 cemeteries with the 8 consciousnesses?
Most of them comes in different, most of them overlap, and each tantra talks a different thing. It alone proves that actually there is no specific, so okay, let's say if you are doing Hey Vajra tantra, they say something like, I don't remember this. I can't remember just like that. But anyway, each different tantra have a different designation. So it's not fixed. Okay.
As a Maya practitioner and somebody who's getting exposed.
Okay, wait. And this is just for the earlier question. There is a certain value in people saying, what is my deva, idam, deity? What is my personal whatever, the sadhana? Because we are now talking about type, or type, I guess, type. So again, a big generalization. First of all, we all, as a human being, we are here on earth, we are definitely belong to what we call kama dhatu, desiring dhatu, realm, type, element, family. These are all the Vajrayana language. Then specifically you, I don't know, you must belong to a certain type. Even color. Red must do something to you. It's all kinds of cause and conditions. Red color must do something to you, and the same red will not do anything to me. Emotions, and therefore different disease, also different ailment. Some have more wind ailment, some has more like a earth ailment. And in connection to that, we also choose different tantra, supposedly. And then, because of that, the designation of which channel ground also changes. Sort of, and this is a good thing, actually. It's almost like 8 cemeteries can be custom made for each and individual. Okay? Yeah. Continue, please.
As a beginner practitioner who's been practicing Mahayana, beginner in Vajrayana, who has a practice of some shamatha, some wisdom, and some bodhicitta, how do we bring in the practice of Vajrayana into this setting practice? What can we start with, or how can we sort of start with Vajrayana practice, setting practice?
My advice is always try to do some hearing and contemplation on Vajrayana view. That's so important, Vajrayana view. Once you really are convinced with the Vajrayana view, then you will have some sort of a freedom to okay, so what I mean is, okay, in the Mahayana, you may be already kind of, at least on the superficial level, you are convinced with the view of shunyata, let's say, right? Shunyata, okay, everything is just an illusion, nothing truly exists, so on and so forth. Then you upgrade to Vajrayana, let's say. And that shunyata is not just like voidness. That shunyata is not like empty. That shunyata is not just a negation. That shunyata is full of qualities. And this union of luminosity and emptiness, this is what we call Guru, Deva, Dakini. And that is not outside. That is myself. Myself, that is of course an illusion, etc., etc. Then, even, taking a shower, yourself taking a shower can be done as a, veneration or an offering to this innate deity. Like that. So you have to develop you have to develop the view. So I really suggest to study, hear and contemplate on the Vajrayana view. Even just having a little understanding really helps. It will, I think, release you. Okay? Whoever has the mic, yeah.
Thank you, Rinpoche, for the teachings. Rinpoche, I was wondering if there are any books or a book you can refer to understand this subject which we are receiving.
I think Ehe Vajra Tantra is quite extensively translated. So is Chakra Sambhara. Big amount of information on the 8 channel ground, if that's what you are talking, or is actually with Kala Chakra, and I don't know actually the Kala Chakra is translated that because it's so big. So I don't know. I'm sure there are sadhanas. But Hey Vajra and the Chakrasambhara, I have seen it myself, so you can read them. There is actually a text called Circle of Bliss. Probably you can. And then, if not, at least some introductory level, like lot of teachings written by Chogyam Trungpa Rinpoche, for instance, like a journey without goal, such as texts such as what? Orderly chaos. This is a very important text, I think.
Thank you.
I had a question about the view that we're talking about. That's been on my mind that when we're engaging with the Vajrayana view, how do we also make sure, or I make sure that I'm not deceiving myself or potentially breaking any of my vows in the process of trying to extend that view?
That is going to be the big part of your practice. You should always be paranoid like this. This paranoia is called keeping the samayas. Other than that, there is no other sadhanas. Okay?
Thank you very much for your activities. And I have a question about sense of humor. It's about also my work with mental diseases, people with mental diseases, and also in this our subject, and about sense of humor in about death, of course, and about our going to death, yeah, and also working with our not to be serious in our role, like a psychologist, like a teacher, and how we may work with that. Yeah, and I have second questions about samaya, how we may take care about our samaya. And of course, you answer now, but also when you yesterday talking about Uchusma, I also I love this deity, and I was thinking that it's also break its deity take caring about Samaya.
Oh yes, it
Yes.
is. It is.
Yes.
Very much.
And I love this. I love this deity, but I was thinking that I have problem with my practice. Practically mind that it's like deity is not for using me something that that I am because I when I see
You mean
Kuzma, it looks like me. I feel like Kuzma, and this is practically and this is it this deity using something for me?
Oh, you don't have to feel guilty about that.
Okay.
Please use by all means. No need to even pay. Yes.
And I have third question from my friend. This is a little bit maybe stupid. Is it possible that power tigers sometimes are crying?
Power?
Very power tigers sometimes are crying. I cry.
Oh, this I don't know.
Is it possible?
Oh, I'm sure. Yes, I'm sure. But be careful with the humor, because I think when there's too much, because I think, I was born in Bhutan and I grew up, in Bhutan, a big part. And I'm still very associated. And Bhutanese have some strange humor. A lot of people don't even laugh. But Bhutanese, even as they begin, the same humor, same joke, for the 1,000,000th time, everybody knows this, and even as they begin to say or do something, they still laugh. But I have noticed ever since 1970s, Bhutanese began to study in places like Kalimpong and Darjeeling, and now to other places like Doon, and now even further. They go to England, they go to Woodstock. Now they don't laugh. So the humor is a very, very important culture, Okay, so when we come back, there has been some requests to do all kinds of things like refuge and bodhicitta, etc., etc. So those who don't have any plan to receive the like refuge or bodhicitta, you don't necessarily have to come back. But if you want to just observe, yes, very much, you are very welcome. So there's also a few transmissions and I'm supposed to do. So this is what we will do this afternoon. Okay.